Welcome to the WorkTrends podcast, brought to you by Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan M. Bureau. Each episode, I interview really smart people who are reimagining the world of work. Be sure to stay current with all of our insightful podcasts by visiting our page at Talent Culture WorkTrends on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And of course, you can listen at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Hello and welcome to an encore episode of WorkTrends. From time to time, we bring back standout conversations that sparked meaningful insight and connection. If you missed this one the first time, now's your chance to dive in. I'm your host, Megan M. Bureau. In this episode of WorkTrends, we dive into how AI is reshaping hiring and redefining the connection between HR teams and job seekers. Drawing on insights from the Alignment Advantage report, we unpack the growing gap in transparency and trust, rising concerns around AI ethics and candidate fraud, and how HR can align technology with fairness and a better candidate experience. But before we begin today's podcast, ask yourself these two questions. Are you concerned about transparency in this AI-driven world? And what are you looking to embrace and avoid with the growth of AI during the candidate experience? Today, we are thrilled to be with Sloan Tollison, the lead recruiter at Checker. Sloan has over a decade of experience recruiting for public and private companies, helping them grow and scale with the right people. She is dedicated to creating the best candidate experience possible by building connection and trust with candidates through transparent and genuine conversations. Welcome, Sloan. I tell you, it seems like you are just the right person to have on this episode today. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I'm excited to be here today.
And where are you calling in from?
I am in sunny Denver, Colorado.
Ooh, I love Denver. And to have sun, you got that how many times a year?
Over 300 days of sunshine.
Woo woo.
Exactly. I love it here.
So, Sloan, for any of our listeners who may not be familiar with the brand Checker, can you please give us a quick intro into who you are and what solutions Checker provides in the HR tech ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So Checker is the data platform that powers safe and fair decisions. We're a technology company helping our customers assess risk, modernize their hiring practices, and then build those trusted relationships in workplaces and communities. And so what this looks like, especially on the employer side, is the ability to run modern, candidate-centered background checks that are leveraging AI-powered data collection and workflows to streamline, and most importantly, for many of our employers, provide extremely accurate candidate screenings or background checks at scale.
Oh my gosh. You had me at candidate, of course, and experience. Thank you. And I think that's an important foundation to explain why Checker is a thought leader regarding these subtle and not so subtle changes in the hiring process. There is a lot going on right now. So the report we're talking about today is called the Alignment Advantage. It's super cool. Let's hear from you, Sloan. What was the inspiration behind it and what topics will we find inside the data?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to talk about this report today, which you can find the full report at checker.com. And it'll also be linked in the podcast today. I encourage everyone to check it out. But the high level, with this report, we wanted to understand how AI is impacting the hiring process, both internally for HR and talent teams, but also for candidates and job seekers. And so we surveyed actually 3,000 job seekers and 3,000 HR and talent managers to really get their experience, opinions, and how they're using AI to improve their interview processes, how they're feeling about trust and transparency. And so, really wanted to, use our expertise as market leaders to go out and see what's going on within the market.
Oh my God, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Sloan. And as you probably know, I'm a bit of a data nerd, and I love that this report provides real market insight into where our industry stands right now. So let's dive in even further. Listen, AI is impacting everything we do in recruiting and hiring today. In the report, you you share that 61% of candidates are using AI in their job search journey, but only 26% of HR teams have clear objectives and KPIs for AI use in hiring. And as a recruiter, how are you seeing the hiring process change with AI's impact? And what roadblocks are you coming up against?
Yeah, this is a great question, Megan. And it kind of sounds silly, but like, bear with me. I think that as a recruiter, we're really, as we're approaching like AI and AI's impact, we're actually focusing on the human, the candidate who is interviewing, the interviewer, and thinking about ways that we can improve the process for every party involved. Because like really at the end of the day, I think that we've all kind of seen this, like AI is essentially becoming kind of like a third wheel in hiring. And so, whether it be like AI interview companions that are allowing like interviewers to focus on the candidate rather than taking notes, we found that has been like, again, like focusing on the human of who's in front of you and the conversation, that's like leading to improvements to the better experience for everyone involved. And, some additional ways that we're seeing, hiring processes change is just like, I think it's all, again, to like improve and iterate and through, AI, using AI to help like hiring managers write better job descriptions that have clearer expectations, maybe more inclusive language. They're also, helping hiring teams create like stronger interview questions. And, even AI can create like what to listen for, what a good answer, bad answer, or poor answer might sound like. And so that we can really, continue to calibrate on exactly what is needed. And again, bring more like objective feedback into hiring. And, there's so many more ways that I think teams are, using AI, scheduling, sourcing, even like AI bots to answer like candidate questions. It's all really exciting. I think is only going to continue to grow in popularity. There's definitely some roadblocks, like you said, to kind of implementing it. And I don't know if this stat is like necessarily a bad thing. I think it's interesting for sure to speak about, but I think that we're kind of on this like innovation bell curve right now with AI. So not sure like how familiar the audience is with this, but there's a bell curve for adoption and innovation. And so I feel like candidates, they are more the innovators, the early adopters. They're more risk tolerant and comfortable using AI to like help them find jobs, where, HR teams need to be more intentional, and as they might be facing like ethical or legal considerations and how AI is being used in hiring processes. And so they're falling more in like that later, stage of like late majority.
Right. Which I find so interesting because, as a former recruiter myself, you're a recruiter, we're like, hey, we're part of the HR team and we are early adopters. But yet in the report, 61% of candidates are using AI in their job search journey. And again, 26% of HR teams only have clear objectives. So as a recruiter, this must impact you even more. Like, talk to us about the roadblocks, because I know there's more than one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think first and foremost, it comes down to like some of the legal considerations. We're in a new era, right? There's not a lot of like legislation that companies, who are maybe more risk tolerant can look to be able to build their own AI like interviewing policies around, not wanting to also commit one way or another with just like how quickly AI is changing. And so I think there's, definitely some legal considerations. The company that a lot of our, even like friends that I have in the industry as part of my network, they have their company is preventing AI usage, maybe because of the industry that they're in from a regulation perspective, or maybe, they're again like more risk adverse. And so they're not even, thinking about bringing AI into the policy yet, into the process yet. And, there's also, if we think about, kind of zoom out as well, like data privacy considerations, if we're using AI and how we can be then compliant to, GDPR and other like data privacy regulations. And then also, there's just so many, right? There's like that lack of ability right now of like, how do candidates opt out if they don't want AI to be involved in the hiring process?
Yeah, and it's tricky, right? But it comes down to communication
Mm-hmm.
still,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
Yes.
And it comes down to empathy. As you know, I'm all about empathy for culture, for product, for people, for humans, all of us. Everyone needs to feel like we're still part of this, along with AI on the journey, but we're still human first, and you're still human first, and you're a recruiter, right? And so hearing from you, you bringing your personal lens to this question is so valuable for myself and the audience. And I know for a fact that our listeners are all over the map in their adoption of AI, especially when we talk about recruitment and hiring. So I think your insights are very helpful. Is there anything else about the data that you want to share? I mean, certainly I want to talk a bit more about ethical concerns around AI's use during hiring, which Checker's report showed a big consideration for both HR and candidates. So tell me, Sloan, how do you think talent teams can build trust with candidates who may be concerned or curious about how AI is being used during recruitment?
Yeah, great question. I think it goes back to what you were just saying, Megan, is it's all around like empathy and then also transparency. We kind of put yourself in the candidate's shoes and then think about, what information would you want to know as approaching a job search, the level of transparency and clarity and when and how AI is being used. And so, we're doing more and more with like AI companions, like to take notes. Cool. Share that like at the beginning of the interview with the candidate, or even better, share that in the interview confirmation with the candidate that, we'll be using AI to take notes in this interview and give them then, that ability to opt out. Like we were just talking about, if your company has an AI like interviewing policy, amazing, like post that on your careers page, or maybe like share it, with the candidates as part of their interview confirmations or prep materials. It's really, about getting that information to the candidate about when and how AI is being used in the process. And then I think also what I don't want, all of us to like forget is really leaning into how humans at the end of the day, like at least in my opinion, should still be making that final decision and not removing, humans completely from that like final decision making part of the process.
That's why it's so exciting, because we're becoming more human by using AI. And I agree with you that we are just in the beginning stages of understanding the true ethical consequences of AI. And I'm talking every single industry, including HR, of course. And I wholeheartedly agree that it's important to maintain trust while embracing tech in new ways, because candidates, they want to be connected to you if you're hiring. They want to know you, and they want to know that, okay, you're thinking about AI and you're thinking about how it impacts their future, right? Their careers.
Exactly. And I think that can also be leveraged as like a selling point for candidates as well. I think we're seeing more and more like candidates who are interested in working at companies, AI companies, but also just like generally like asking, how is Checker using AI? We're getting that more and more in our interviews. And so being, transparent with how we're using it in the interview process, along with how you're using it at the company or within the company, is, again, like a kind of a unique selling point I think that companies can lean into as well and build that like candidate excitement while, remaining like transparent.
Well, okay, so there's more to the report. Can you believe it? Does everybody have their seatbelts on? I mean, this Checker report shows how AI-assisted candidate fraud is quickly rising among the list of challenges and concerns facing everyone in the job market. What's your perspective on how recruiters can mitigate risk when faced with this growing trend?
Yeah, so candidate fraud, it's been a huge topic for us internally here at Checker recently. And it's interesting to dig into because we are seeing fraud pop up in many ways very quickly. I think we're faster than we kind of imagined. And so some of the things that we're seeing and trying to address is, candidates who are using Gen AI tools for real-time responses and interviews and, coming across as like an expert in that area, but really they're relying on AI to generate those answers. Or, on the engineering side, where I spend a lot of my time, is around how candidates are using AI coding assistants to ace these engineering like coding exercises. And, even we've seen, sophisticated impersonation impersonation tools, which is, like deep fakes or like a proxy interviewer who's kind of standing in as the candidate's like appearance or voice. And it's amazing the things that AI can do. It's also a little bit terrifying. And even with like how AI can kind of hide and is becoming, more of this like invisible partner as well, allowing candidates to have that like AI generated content live without us as the interviewers knowing it. And so, these are just like some of the ways that we've been seeing some like fraud within this space. And, when I kind of zoom out and think about it more broadly, it's like an interesting time that we're living in. It's like a little bit of like the wild, wild west, because there's no, again, like legislation or, universal truth of this is how AI should be used in interviewing or, on both sides for candidates and HR teams. But some of the things that we've done here at Checkr is we, back in August, launched a AI and interviewing policy. And so this documents and details, how our expectations on how candidates can use AI during the interview process. And we include that in our confirmation emails to candidates so that they're aware. Recruiters also mention it, during their prep calls. We're doing a little bit more, again, like back to that like human element, kind of adding more like friction to the interview process as well. Checkr, we do have a hybrid model. And so something that we're experimenting with actually is bringing candidates back on site for interviews, for at least one of their interviews.
That is happening more and more as we return to human. And that's one of the things I like about Checkr so much is just your confidence, your abilities, and your flexibility to literally roll with AI and humanity, but make humanity first and prioritize that. It's very evident in each and every one of our conversations. So know that. And I have to say, if you're out there in the audience, the word fraud is kind of juicy, isn't it? But honestly, it's a real concern. We all know the time cost and the effort that go into each and every hire. Leaders need to know what to watch for and how to have some protections in place. And again, it's about communication. All right, well, time flies when we're having fun here at WorkTrends. We are on the final question. So the report states that 57% of candidates say transparency about AI use is very important to their decision to apply for a job. Even so, only about a third of all candidates say they felt clearly informed by their prospective employers about AI during hiring. That's a pretty big gap. I think it's a reality check for us. So why do you think communication about AI may be breaking down between recruiters and candidates? And what practices do you see emerging in the space?
Yeah, Megan, you almost took the words from my mouth. I think it's, this data point is a little bit of like a reality check for HR teams, calling out some gaps and clear action that we can take to actually improve, the overall like candidate experience and bring more transparency to that, to the candidate experience. And so, I don't think that's just like coming from any sort of like bad intent by any means. I think it's just kind of a byproduct of like, when and how to inform candidates of AI usage. And maybe, with this stat, I don't know if it's like actually an AI problem. It's a little bit more of like, reminder again for us all in HR to like create this candidate experience that is around providing like candidates with clarity, transparency, and clear communication. And so, how can we do that? It's all around, being kind of more tactical and thinking about where can we, in as many places as possible, speak to how and when AI is being used, whether it be on the careers page, calling that out for candidates, or at least, if we're using AI to stack rank candidates, I think a lot of companies, could just add an extra sentence into their application confirmation emails that, we're using AI to stack rank candidates or to review your application, just like bringing in that transparency from the start and from when candidates first apply all the way through the interview process. So again, like providing additional AI details and like interview confirmations, or, if you're sending like an outreach to a candidate, maybe just like an update to a candidate, or even like if you're sourcing a new candidate, like be lighthearted. We're all human. We're all here. We have our roles and candidates are seeking work. And so make a joke or like how, this message might have been written by AI or AI helped me draft this message, like provide your feedback. Or, even like I've seen some recruiters starting to like like include like AI prompts in their outreach to candidates as well, which is like just a lot of fun. And so it's really, again, it's just all around like communication and that transparency to candidates and really thinking about putting ourselves in their shoes, having that empathy and thinking about that candidate experience.
Well, I tell you, this gets back to the heart of so many things here that we love at Talent Culture. Communication is first and foremost, and I think transparency in AI usage is the new chapter in this book we call The Future of Work. So, Sloan, I want to thank you for stopping by. It's been a super juicy conversation.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me today, Megan.
Hey, thanks again, Sloan. What a great conversation. And I love to feel like we're right on the precipice of major shifts, but also armed with enough information to forge forward responsibly. So, having said all this, here are a few of my key takeaways. Number one, here at Talent Culture, we have immersed ourselves into all things AI. What's becoming abundantly clear is that we can be excited about the many benefits, but also need to be aware of how it can be misused. Number two, leaders who are rolling out AI and hiring need to have a clear objective and KPIs. Know why and how it's going to be used before you tarnish your employer brand by using it haphazardly. And number three, transparency has always been valued in the candidate experience, and the introduction of AI to the process adds a new layer. Take the time and consult the experts who can guide your teams through how to achieve this with professionalism and fairness. Last but not least, you, the Talent Culture community, I want to hear from you. Be sure to use the hashtag WorkTrends and share your thoughts on the following questions. Number one, what challenges have you faced when using AI in your hiring processes? Number two, what improvements have you seen by integrating AI into the candidate journey? And number three, what do you think will surprise our industry most about the evolving relationship between AI and hiring? Visit us at LinkedIn, Instagram, and X to share your responses to these questions, or feel free to contact me personally at Megan M. Bureau on the socials, mbureau@talentculture.com. Thank you so much for listening to the WorkTrends podcast, the place to find meaningful connections at and about work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Send us questions. We love questions. Thank you again, community. Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Just a reminder that you can hear all the WorkTrends podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on the podcast page at talentculture.com. Be sure to subscribe so you can listen on the go and stay up to date on all the latest news you want to hear. I look forward to catching up with you next time. I hope today's information made you wiser, happier, more informed, and most importantly, thinking of how you can use it to improve the quality of your life. This has been a special encore edition of the WorkTrends podcast. A reminder that the most meaningful conversations at work don't expire. We invite you to explore more episodes featuring the people shaping what's next in the world of work. Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love learning something new in each and every episode. Just a reminder that you can listen to all of the WorkTrends podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and the podcast page at talentculture.com or your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to subscribe so you can listen on the go and stay up to date on all the latest news you want to hear. I look forward to catching up with y'all next time. And I hope today's information made you wiser, happier, more informed, and most importantly, thinking of how you can use it to improve the quality of your career, your life, and your world of work.